You will see that there is an example. This time only the conversation relating to this will be played first.
Good afternoon. You're Adam, aren't you?
That's right.
I'm Mrs. Allen. Now, you're here for the cleaner interview here at the hospital.
Yes.
So cleaner is the correct answer. Now the full test will begin. You should answer the questions as you listen, as the recording is not played twice. Listen carefully to the conversation and answer questions 1 to 6.
Good afternoon. You're Adam, aren't you?
That's right.
I'm Mrs. Allen. Now, you're here for the cleaner interview here at the hospital.
Yes.
Well, let's get started. I need some personal details from you first.
Okay.
Now, your first name is Adam. What's your surname?
It's Marshall.
Could you spell that?
It's Marshall.
Thank you. And what is your address?
It's 82 Ackland Road, Gorley.
And the postcode for that address?
It's OG8 6RE.
Thank you. Next, I need your mobile phone number.
It's 07543 842 592.
Good, thanks. What's next? Yes. Do you know your national insurance number?
I do. It's MA679536F.
And how old are you?
I'm 21.
Good, thank you. Now, you know that this interview is for a part-time job.
Oh yes, I'm a student at the university, so I wouldn't be able to hold down a full-time job anyway.
So, what kind of hours will you be available?
My lectures start in the morning at 10, so I'll be available from around 6 in the morning until 9, and then in the afternoons and evenings starting at around 3 p.m. I guess I'd want to be free by 10 in the evenings. I'd be available mornings at weekends.
Well, we should be able to find you work in those hours. Being a hospital, everything has to be very clean, and we need people at all hours of the day and evening.
That will suit me very well.
By the way, have you had any experience as a cleaner before?
A little. When I was at school, I did a weekend job at a local restaurant. I did the washing up and helped out with the cleaning. I had to mop down the floors and clean all the surfaces. From time to time, we had to push back all the appliances and cupboards and clean behind everything.
That sounds like good preparation for us. Did you enjoy the work?
Yes, I liked the people I worked with, so time passed quickly and I made some new friends.
Can we contact them?
Of course. I asked them when I left if that was all right, and the manager gave me his email address.
Do you have that with you?
Yes, it's david@apple.com. He said he'd give a reference to anyone who asked.
Good, that will be very helpful.
Before the conversation continues, you have some time to look at questions 7 to 10. Now listen carefully and answer questions 7 to 10.
Well, Adam, I think we can offer you the job.
Thanks very much. I look forward to starting.
Now, I'd like to tell you a little about what we expect in the job. You can ask questions at any time.
Okay.
So to begin with, when you arrive, you need to check in at the staff reception, so your arrival time can be logged in. This will mean that you get paid the right amount. Then, when you finish, you need to log out at the same place.
Okay, I'll remember that. What is my rate of pay, by the way?
You get £9 an hour. Is that okay?
Yes, that's fine.
Now, after you've logged in, you need to go to the staff changing rooms. We provide you with green overalls to wear while you're at work. And there's a locker where you can keep your own clothes and valuables safe while you're working. You also need to wear a special hat, which will prevent any hair falling out where it shouldn't. This is especially important if you have to go into the kitchen areas.
Yes, I had to do that at my last job.
Now, if you work longer than 3 hours, you're entitled to take a 20-minute break. During this break, you can do what you want. Some people go and have a cigarette or get some fresh air. We ask you not to go into the public areas during your breaks. There is a staff canteen where you can get free tea, coffee, or soft drinks. If you work longer than 4 hours, then you're entitled to have a meal as well.
Good. That will save me from some cooking.
Now, we'd like you to start next weekend at 9 a.m. Would that be all right?
Yes, that's fine.
Before you start on that day, it's important that you come for an hour for some training. We need to show you all the equipment and where you'll be working. This will allow you to get on with things straight away when you arrive on Saturday. You'll be paid for this hour of training at your usual rate.
When shall I come in?
How about Thursday at 4 p.m?
That'll be fine. I'll be here.
Well, that's everything for now. Thanks very much for coming in, Adam. I look forward to you working with us.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Allen. I look forward to it as well.
That is the end of section 1. You will now have half a minute to check your answers. Now turn to section 2. Section 2. You will hear a radio program with a woman giving some people information about a town exhibition. First, you have some time to look at questions 11 to 16. Now listen carefully to the information talk and answer questions 11 to 16.
Welcome back to Radio Gen. Now we're going to talk to Mrs. Stephanie French, who is going to tell us a little about the town exhibition that starts next week. Welcome, Steph.
Thank you very much. It's great to be here.
So, tell us about the town exhibition, Steph.
Well, as you know, the town has an exhibition every summer. As usual, it will take place in the town park, and it'll last from Tuesday the 9th of July until Sunday the 14th of July. The exhibition serves several different functions. Firstly, it is a business exhibition where all local businesses can set up stations so that people can come and ask them in person about anything related to the businesses. This might range from just general interest to possible business partners setting up new deals. Given our location, the farms in the area have plenty of apple orchards, so there is one particular section on apple juice and other related products. Another function of the exhibition is to be more like a town fair. There are always games, competitions, and amusements to see and take part in. A lot of these things go on throughout the day, but also many of the amusement rides and other things aimed at children open from 3 p.m. Every evening at 10 p.m., the exhibition will end with a big fireworks display, which lasts for 20 minutes. This is always a popular event, and the best place to view the fireworks is next to the central lake. Please note that if people plan to take their dogs with them for the evening, be aware the fireworks often distress them. It's often better to just leave them at home rather than giving them stress. If you're planning on spending time at the exhibition, especially if you're with children, you ought to know that there will be a variety of food on offer. There will be ranges of Italian, Chinese, Turkish, Thai food stations, along with plenty of other international options, and there will also be an open-fire barbecue with meats and vegetables freshly grilled. Naturally, there will be plenty of drinks available as well. If you're bringing children, make sure that they are suitably dressed. If it's hot, it can be very tiring, especially for young children. Also, don't forget to bring plenty of sunscreen and a hat to protect their skin. If the weather's bad, don't forget raincoats, umbrellas, and think about wearing rubber boots, as the grass areas can get very muddy if there's rain around. Every day, there are lottery tickets sold, and the winning numbers are called out every evening, just before the fireworks. Try your luck and see what you might win. Tickets are only $4 for $1, so you won't need to break the bank. If you can't stay until the evening to hear the results, just write your name and telephone number on the back of the ticket that you leave with the lottery people, and they'll call you if you're lucky enough to win.
You now have some time to look at questions 17 to 20. Now listen to the rest of the radio program and answer questions 17 to 20.
We've had a number of emails asking for information regarding where things will be found at the exhibition, so I'll talk a little about that next. As you come in the main entrance on East Avenue, there will be the pavilion with all products to do with apples on your right. This will be an enormous marquee holding the stations of many of our local businesses. One great advantage of this place is that it's all covered up and a good place to shelter if there's bad weather. They have their own little food and drink section as well, so you can get a hot drink or warm soup if it's cold. On the left, as you enter the exhibition, opposite the Apple Pavilion, as we call it, you'll find the section devoted to all other local businesses. This too is in a big marquee and is an interesting place to wander around and see what is done in our local area. Next to this is the first aid station, which can help you with any minor health problem you have while at the exhibition. They always have 3 people on duty at any one time, and these fully trained first aiders can deal with more serious issues if needed, as well as a headache from too much sun. If you continue down the path away from the entrance, you'll find lots of stalls on both sides with various things to buy. These can include local jams and dried herbs, farm produce such as eggs and honey, handicrafts in wood and metal, and lots of secondhand stalls where you might be able to pick up a bargain. These various stalls go right up to the central lake. As you reach the lake, directly opposite will be the area where you'll find all the food stations. There's plenty of outdoor seating with long tables, and there are large areas that are covered in case you need to escape the rain or too much sun. The open tables are a great place to watch the fireworks later with an evening drink. It's a popular place, so get there early if you want to find a good spot. On both sides of the lake, opposite each other, you'll find all the amusement rides and games that can be played. These are areas of great fun both for adults and for children. Make sure that you visit these places at least once with your friends and family. It will be an experience you won't forget.
That is the end of section 2. You will now have half a minute to check your answers. Now turn to section 3. Section 3. You will hear 2 students giving a university presentation to their teacher. First, you have some time to look at questions 21 to 25. Now listen carefully and answer questions 21 to 25.
Good morning, everyone. Today we're listening to a presentation by Toby and Fran. Are you both ready?
Yes, we are, Dr. Williams. Shall we start?
Yes, please. You go ahead, and as usual, I'll come in with various questions as they occur to me.
Okay, so we're talking about the benefits of electricity as a fuel for vehicles. To begin with, I'd like to talk about energy security here in the United States. 2 years ago, the United States brought in from abroad about 33% of the petroleum it consumed, and transportation was responsible for nearly 75% of total U.S. petroleum consumption. With much of the world's petroleum reserves located in politically volatile countries, the United States is vulnerable to price spikes and supply disruptions.
But isn't U.S. electricity generated by imported oil as well?
No, almost all U.S. electricity is produced from domestic coal, nuclear energy, natural gas, and renewable resources. Using hybrid and plug-in electric vehicles instead of conventional vehicles can help reduce U.S. reliance on imported petroleum and increase energy security.
Do all electric cars get their power from outside sources, or can they generate it themselves?
They can if they have an onboard generator, but running one will always be more expensive than getting power from the electricity grid. No one would do it unless they have a hybrid car that has an onboard generator and they couldn't find an electricity charging source.
And do electric cars actually use less fuel?
Oh yes, electric vehicles typically use less fuel than similar conventional vehicles because they employ electric drive technologies to boost efficiency.
So, electric cars definitely have lower fuel costs compared to similar conventional vehicles, on the whole, due to the low cost of electricity relative to conventional fuel. The fuel economy of electric cars is also highly dependent on the load carried and the slow duty cycle.
Isn't that true for conventional cars as well?
Yes, although not so much.
What other benefits do electric cars have?
One very topical benefit is, of course, that they can have significant emissions benefits over conventional vehicles. Wholly electric cars have zero tailpipe emissions, and hybrids produce no tailpipe emissions when in all-electric mode.
The life cycle emissions of electric cars depend on the sources of electricity used to charge it, which vary by region of the U.S. In geographic areas that use relatively low polluting energy sources for electricity production, electric cars typically have a life cycle emissions advantage over similar conventional vehicles running on gasoline or diesel. In regions that depend heavily on conventional fossil fuels for electricity generation, electric cars may not demonstrate a strong life cycle emissions benefit.
I've heard that the use of biodiesel in cars is as good in terms of tailpipe emissions as electric cars. Is that true?
Not really, but there are similar advantages. The fuel B100 reduces tailpipe emissions by more than 75% when compared with petroleum diesel, but there's still more than the zero emissions by electric cars. Using B100 biodiesel does reduce greenhouse gas emissions, though, because although the carbon dioxide released from biodiesel consumption is about the same as the fossil fuel engine, it is offset by the carbon dioxide absorbed while growing the soybeans or other feedstock. Tailpipe emissions also depend on which biodiesel is used.
You now have some time to look at questions 26 to 30. Now listen to the rest of the discussion and answer questions 26 to 30.
Are there any disadvantages to electric cars?
Yes, one problem is the current infrastructure availability for refueling. Public charging stations are not as ubiquitous as gas stations, but charging equipment manufacturers, automakers, utilities, clean cities coalitions, municipalities, and government agencies are establishing a rapidly expanding network of charging infrastructure.
It's still reasonably flexible, though. Since the electric grid can be available almost anywhere people park, electric cars can charge overnight at a residence, a fleet facility, at a workplace, or at public charging stations. Hybrid cars have added flexibility because they can also refuel with a fossil fuel when there is no electricity charging available.
And are the costs of buying an electric car comparable with buying a conventional car?
Not yet. Purchase prices can be significantly higher. However, prices are likely to decrease as production volumes increase.
I suppose that potential buyers know that they can save more money in the long run by using an electric car.
Yes, that's an aspect that the marketers of electric cars really push hard. I suppose that's natural.
What are all the different ways in which people can save money?
Let's see. The initial costs can be offset by fuel cost savings, a federal tax credit, and incentives provided by the relevant state.
What about maintenance?
Electric cars need maintenance just as conventional cars do, but a significant difference is the battery. The advanced batteries in electric vehicles are designed for extended life, but will wear out eventually. Several manufacturers of electric vehicles are offering 8-year or 100,000-mile battery warranty.
This must be a great perceived drawback to people considering buying an electric car.
Yes, short-life batteries are a significant disadvantage to electric cars, and if the batteries need to be replaced, it can be a significant expense. However, battery prices are expected to decline as technology goes forward and as increasing numbers of batteries are manufactured.
Well, that seems to be a good place for a break for you. Do any of the other students have any questions for you?
That is the end of section 3. You will now have half a minute to check your answers. Now turn to section 4. Section 4. You will hear a lecture on twins and autonomous languages. First, you have some time to look at questions 31 to 40. Now listen carefully and answer questions 31 to 40.
Hello everyone, and welcome to this lecture on speech development. Today we're going to look at twins and how they are theorized to often communicate with each other in their own language. Twins are regularly reported to invent languages of their own that are unintelligible to others. These languages are known as autonomous languages, and despite current belief, this is not a rare phenomenon. Autonomous languages exist in about 40% of all twins, but often disappear soon after their appearance. So, how does this language formulate? The theory behind a twin language is that siblings are so close to each other and rely on each other so much that they don't have as much of a need to communicate with the outside world, and so they make up their own idiosyncratic language that develops only between the two of them. These siblings actually do not necessarily have to be twins. The typical situation is one in which two or more close siblings grow up closely together during the language acquisition period. If an adult model language is frequently absent, the children use each other as a model and acquire language imperfectly. If a model is completely absent, the children copy other sources, maybe the television or radio, and probably do not create a recognizable language. In all known cases, any language actually created by close siblings is made up of onomatopoeic expressions, various invented words, and words from the adult language adapted to the constrained phonological range of young children. An autonomous language will lack coherent morphology, and the word order will be based on pragmatic principles. Because of all this, and because the words themselves are hardly recognizable, the language may turn out to be completely unintelligible to speakers of the model language. A lot of research has gone into autonomous languages. Neither the structure of these autonomous languages nor their emergence can be explained by other than situational factors. Research studies seem to indicate that what appears to be a twin language might actually be two children with the same delay in phonology, which is how children put speech sounds together into words. The delay in phonology is usually due to a lack of models to copy, which are usually parents. Children tend to establish speech sounds in the same general order, and they often make identical types of errors in their speech. Children with phonological delays have speech sound systems that don't develop as would be expected, and this makes it hard to understand their speech. Some researchers now believe that what is often described as a twin language is actually two normal children whose speech sounds are not developing as would be expected. Researchers further theorize that these speech sound errors can be prolonged in twins or close siblings, because each child has a partner who seems to understand him and uses the same type of speech as he does. While this does make their speech a kind of a twin language, as the two children seem to understand each other when others cannot, it's also a delay in sound development that probably needs to be addressed by speech therapy. Not surprisingly, studies have also linked the presence of an autonomous language to language delays in later school-age years. Parents of twins or close siblings who have their own language should not have to panic. There seems to be a small percentage of children who have both their secret language and who are able to communicate effectively with their parents in real language. These children will switch back and forth between their own language and their developing mother tongue, depending on who they're talking to. It's also important to note that researchers have found that not all children who have their own language will go on to have language delays. An autonomous language seems to be only a risk factor that children will struggle with speech and language. However, it will indicate that an evaluation by a speech-language therapist might be beneficial in helping to decide what's really going on. So, what can a parent do to help their children develop normal speech? Firstly, parents are the most important guide to language acquisition and enrichment. What parents say and how they say it will directly impact their children's development of speech sounds and sentence duration. Therefore, parents should talk to their children as often as possible, describing what they're doing and why they're doing it, what's around them and what's happening. Secondly, it's never too early to start reading to children. Research has indicated that even infants can benefit from this. As all children grow, reading should be a daily part of their routine, and it will improve their language, vocabulary, attention, and future success. Twins will benefit from this even more. So, what eventually happens to the autonomous language between twins or close siblings? In most cases, the private language begins to disappear spontaneously after a low-key intervention or when the children enter school, interact with other children, and immerse themselves in the more powerful lingua franca. The children might shift to the use of their secret language every once in a while, and this is just normal. However, if they are given the right training, they will not develop delay in language learning.
That is the end of section 4. You will now have half a minute to check your answers. In the Ielts test, you would now have 10 minutes to transfer your answers to the listening answer sheet.